Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today I am at Knotty Barbecue Company, and they claim to have stick burner quality pellets. We're gonna find out. The way we have things set up today to test this out is we have sticks of almond wood that I'm using in a stick burner. It's actually a Lang barbecue smoker. I've wanted to use one forever, and today I got the chance in combination with the wood I wanted to use forever. And then to compare it to things that you might know, we have almond pellets, just like these guys here, which is just this wood turned into pellet form. And then we have almond with wine infusion, and we're gonna compare those three, all coated with just salt and pepper, and smoked for a long time with love and affection. So the real thing is testing out the almond wood and the almond pellets, and then the new prototype with the almond with the wine. So can you tell us about how you came up with those? Why almond? Everybody else is doing oak, they're doing hickory, they're doing mesquite. You're doing almond and plum, totally unique woods. Why these woods?
Almond wood is one of the best kept secrets because of it's only in the Sacramento and the Central Valley regions and Imperial Valley regions that it's grown. Nobody else knows about it. It's not readily available. We've been cooking with it for years. The farmers, the ranchers, it's our go-to wood for barbecue.
Yeah.
We have the option for oaks and things like that, but we get good heat, we get good consistency, and you get a really good smoke profile, which you got to taste yesterday with the lamb riblets. So we decided we're in the agriculture business, and the orchard removal business is something that's been going around, and we decided that rather than take these trees and burn them in the field, that why wouldn't we take these and make a pellet and introduce it to the world, because of we know it here in the valley.
Sure.
But nobody else knows it.
Exactly.
It's way more expensive to press because of the density, which you saw today.
Right, so even though this is well-seasoned wood, it's still relatively heavy. But when you hit them together, you can hear it kind of resonate. That tells me the wood is plenty dry, but it's just a really dense wood, which means that it gives you sustained heating. So using it on a stick burner has been great so far. But if you don't live in the Central Valley, you can still buy almond pellets and use them no matter where you are in the US, right?
Yes.
I'm really excited to try this. So we're keeping everything identical. We got the briskets at the same time from the same Costco, the same brand, trimmed them the same way, seasoned them the same way with just salt and pepper, and we're really gonna have a fair head-to-head comparison between almond sticks, almond pellets, and then almond with a wine infusion. And I really, really liked, so I'm just gonna confess this to you right now, in the tests that we've done before, I really, really liked the almond with the wine infusion. I thought it had a sweetness and a richness that I really haven't encountered with any other pellets, so I'm excited to see what that does on brisket, because we did a short cook. I want to know what kind of flavor you can layer on in a long cook. So we're going to give you an update. We're going to take a peek at these briskets that are in the different pellet smokers and in the stick burner, and you can kind of, by the color and the bark and the fat render, start to make your decision about how each one of these cooks. Hey guys, I want to thank today's sponsor, Audible. Audible is something I use all the time, whether it's when I'm on the treadmill or whether I'm driving or whether I'm out smoking meat. Audible is a great resource for audiobooks, podcasts, comedy. Basically, if you want to listen to it, Audible has it. An audiobook I recently listened to on Audible was The Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino. And I was so impacted by reading that book that I'm actually doing the carnivore diet right now for a month, and I'm doing a video about it, so make sure to check that out. But I love nonfiction. I love to learn new things. I listen to Audible so much that basically anytime I'm leaving, I always check my pants pockets for a few things. One is my wallet, one is my keys, the other is my headphones and my phone, because if I'm going somewhere and I'm not talking to somebody, I'm usually listening to Audible. It has so much content that you could be listening to Audible from now until you're 100 years old and never run out of new content to listen to. Whether you're a lover of fiction, nonfiction, comedy, Audible has thousands of titles to choose from. There's going to be something on there to interest you, I guarantee it. Audible is simply the best resource for people who love learning as much as I do. Now, if you want to get started with Audible, you can go to audible.com/MadScientistBBQ or text Mad Scientist BBQ to 500-500. That's audible.com/MadScientistBBQ or text Mad Scientist BBQ to 500-500. You're going to be glad that you did. Okay, Spencer, this is the almond pellet brisket, and the first thing I noticed is that we have tremendous color, really nice bark on this, and the fats render pretty well. The other issue that I run into with pellet smokers, besides a lot of times they lack flavor if you're not using the right pellets, is it's really hard to get dark bark. You can get the red color pretty easily, but to get that kind of traditional meteorite look on the outside of your brisket is hard. So these are just your regular almond pellets.
Straight almond.
And it's got tremendous bark. I mean, the aroma is great too, but all the things that you look for when you do offset briskets are showing up when you cook this. to get this guy wrapped up, we have 2 sheets of butcher paper. That's good looking bark right there. And so on the underside, nothing's burned, which is excellent. And so we're gonna take a scoop of our Wagyu tallow and we're gonna coat this, because what you perceive as moisture is usually rendered fat when you're cooking meat. So we're gonna take a scoop of that, put it all over the meat side, because the fat side already has fat covering it. We don't need more fat there. But we're gonna put it on this and then wrap it up, so the whole thing is essentially kind of an in-paper confit. So we want it to be as rich and juicy on the outside as possible. Also, that fat helps to preserve the bark because it helps to keep it from getting hydrated when it kind of steams a little bit in the paper. So all those reasons lead me to use extra tallow, and I think this is what a lot of places in Central Texas do. It's something they don't really talk about, but it's one of their, you know, secret weapons to make their briskets extra special.
You can do the honors.
All right. As somebody who scooped a fair amount of tallow in my day, okay?
So you're just gonna literally let that melt on there.
Yeah, I just want it to melt.
This is
all
like
over
melting
it.
ice cream.
What I actually usually like to do is smoke the tallow, because there are some compounds that are dissolved by fat, some compounds that are dissolved by water. They're called hydrophobic and hydrophilic compounds respectively. And I think you just get a broader spectrum of smoke flavor when you do both. So the meat is gonna absorb a certain amount, but the fat, if you just put it on the smoker, it preheats it, so it doesn't cool the brisket as much. Still has all of the moisturizing effects of the fat, but also absorbs smoke flavor by itself. And there was one spot up here where there was a bald spot from the packer. I'm just gonna rub some tallow on that, keep this all nice and moist. And now, to wrap it up, 2 layers of foil, 2 layers of butcher paper, 18 inches. And I usually roll over a tiny lip just so I can turn it.
And you want to roll that as tight as you can.
Yeah, as tight as you can, I mean within reason. Just
Yes.
nice and tight. And so at this point, I hold it here, don't let it move, and kind of put a little downward pressure so it doesn't slide. Then I take this end and round it up tight around the point. And then I just go generally about a straight line. If I need to fold it in more later, I can, it's not a big deal. But that initial first kind of cupping the paper around is what's important. So, here we go. Like this, roll it, keep it all in tight. There we go. Okay, got that guy. And then, just gonna fold this over, roll it one more time. This guy's ready to go back and finish up. Okay, with the almond wine pellets, again, we have really nice bark, and it could just be a function of the smoker itself, but we're not getting quite the same fat render on top. But in order to protect the bottom side, the meat side, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this guy. So, I'm gonna flip it over, hit it with some Wagyu tallow. And this guy's gonna go back. We finally have our offset brisket. Now this one took the longest, which if you've been cooking on an offset for long enough, you know that it tends to take longer. But just looking at it, looks like we have good bark, we have good fat render. So in a lot of ways, this is looking just like I want it to look. But for you, when I brought this up here, you said you had some comments about it. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is my observation. We've been watching these come off, and as somebody who hasn't done a lot of brisket, I do a lot of tri-tip, I do a lot of ribs, I do a lot of stuff, and I sincerely wanted to learn how to cook brisket. So my first observation about this brisket is I now better understand what the bark is, because we were close to emulating this on all of ours, but it still isn't as dark and rich as this, which is the pinnacle of what we're trying to do. Very close, but I see what you're talking about in the evenness of this bark.
Yeah, there's no replacement for a real fire, but good pellets will get you close. There's a reason that people don't want to sit and babysit a fire all day. So we started this, you actually lit the fire on that at what, 1 a.m. this morning?
Yep.
Yeah, and with a pellet smoker, you can sleep. With an offset, not really. And so there are major downsides to using an offset smoker. The upside is this kind of bark and kind of, at least in my mind, the deepest kind of smoke flavor, the richest kind of smoke flavor, like the broadest spectrum, because you have every kind of combustion. So from the wood heating and giving off gases, to the wood bursting into flame, to those coals burning down and continuing to give some flavor, you have all of that happening. But with pellets, they have to stay dry or else they lose their integrity. And so you have the dry pellets going into a really hot chamber pot, and then it's just really almost complete combustion, and so you don't have the same broad spectrum of flavors. Now, with these incredibly dense pellets that you guys make, you get more flavor. And what's the pellet density index you guys have, like 99.5?
Yeah, so we've measured all the way up to 99.99, and we've measured down our lowest pellet that we actually would sell. Sometimes the dye has a problem, but we don't let anything out. Pretty much anything below about a 97 we're taking off. And you can actually see that when you're making the pellet. The observation that I have watching this process today with the offset is that you're getting for the most part, you're getting a good clean fire, but you're getting a little touch of that wood on the outside edges that give you a little bit of that dirty smoke that adds to that flavor profile and this crust, and putting some of those different gases on this.
Yes.
Where with the pellet smokers, you're in such a controlled fire pot that you cannot have that. You don't get a mixture. You get on or off.
Right. And if you like to tinker, then messing with a fire is fun. But if you want to sleep, or if you got to go to work, or if you have to do any of a million different things, pellet smokers make a lot of sense. And if you can get great quality results, you know, it's really hard to argue with. But we're going to find out. We're going to do the blind taste test, and it won't be just us testing it. It'll be people who have no idea what sample 1 is, sample 2, sample 3, sample 4, etc. So let's get this guy wrapped up, back on, and finished off, and then we're going to give these guys as long a rest as possible before the guests show up.
There you go.
All right, almond wood. Here's the test. All right, we pulled these 4 briskets off, and they all felt good. I think they're going to be the proper level of doneness. But one thing that's going to be kind of unique about this is they're all cooked on different smokers. So if one's a little overdone or one's a little underdone, you know, it's going to be my fault. But we're really after the flavor. Now, you haven't used this lang yet. This is brand new to you. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the big takeaway from me, Jeremy, is that I'm learning so much. I'm learning that this really is my friend when I'm cooking like this. I don't do a lot of low and slow. I'm more of a direct heat guy.
Yeah. The ultimate test, though, is when we put this in front of blind taste testers, and they're going to give us their honest feedback because they don't know which is the one we're rooting for. So I'm really looking forward to that. So we're going to check back in with you when we can slice these open and really see where the rubber meets the road. Okay, we have rested these things. Ideally, we'd rest them longer, but the show must go on, and we got some people to feed. So I pulled this one out. This is just almond pellets, and the taste testers who are going to taste it blind are not going to know which one is which. But if I'm looking at this, I would never have guessed that this came off a pellet smoker. This bark, you know, it's got that meteorite look. It's kind of glossy from rendered fat. When you poke the rendered fat, it just gives. If somebody pulled this out of the warmer at Franklin Barbecue, I wouldn't know by looking at it that it wasn't cooked on one of those 1,000-gallon offset smokers. Now, it remains to be seen about the flavor, but the look is 100% legit.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about it not being even, but now that it's been laid down, everything's rested, it's totally uniform.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic, and it smells great.
It looks really, and yeah, it's got a, here's the thing, it might taste a little different, it's got a unique smell.
All right, well, let's get to cutting it and find out.
So for all the guests who are going to do our blind taste test, we have to be reasonable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some end cuts. These are going to be kind of crustier, drier. The other cuts are going to be a little bit better, but these will give us a good idea of smoke flavor. So here you go.
Okay.
So if this is the end cut, if this is the dry cut, that's not bad. Good smoke ring.
Wow. Really nice smoke ring. You're the aficionado.
Sure.
Tell me your thoughts.
So I'm thinking the bark is wonderful. You get that melt in your mouth fat. Meat's not burned. The smoke flavor is really good. The only thing is, I'm thinking,
it's not pronounced. It's not pronounced.
If I could have 20% more, then I'd be doing jumping jacks, right?
Kind of
Or
like eating
cartwheels.
Japanese food. It leaves you with that wanting more.
Yeah. But this is so nice. This, of all the barbecue I've tried in Kentucky, this pellet smoker, inexpensive pellet smoker cooked brisket is going to be better than every single one I've tried.
Wow.
And it's not even close.
Wow.
I mean, there's a pretty wide gulf. I thought it was tremendous. But let's set this aside.
Yep.
And we're going to go on to the next one.
Yep.
Because, oh, this is good. Those crispy bits on the end. For just salt and pepper, it's hard to beat.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
just going to leave that there.
And
Put
this
that
guy.
in there.
Special treat.
Okay, I'm going to pull the offset off next because I
Okay.
want to see the comparison straight
Right.
away while we're here.
Yep, one to another.
Yep.
And if this one is garbage, I'm going to be really disappointed in myself.
I'm going to go ahead and cover this just to hold that heat.
Yep, good call. All right.
More foil. Another sheet of foil, just one more.
Okay, it hurts me deep inside, but I think there's darker color on the almond pellet brisket than there is on the offset.
And the offset is almond wood.
Almond wood, yeah. So I mean, it's as fair a comparison as you can possibly make.
Yep.
Right? Pure almond wood, nothing else, and almond splits that go into making almond wood. So,
And interestingly enough, they're both about a 13.5-hour cook.
yep. So you don't have to sacrifice bark if you're using pellets, as long as you're using the best pellets. Now we're going to see if there's more flavor here, but
Let's cut
I
it and
spent
see.
a lot of time tending this fire, so I'm hurt that it's not darker than this thing. But that's okay, because that one we just turned a knob. It's like, oh, okay, here we go, rock and roll, and then we walked away, and then nothing happened for 13 hours. Meanwhile, I was tending a fire for 13 and a half hours. No big deal. That's fine. Let's taste it. A little salty. Okay, here we go.
A little drier.
Might be, but I think it's an illusion. So when we look at this, you see how that fat is translucent?
Yeah.
So I think when you take this bite, it might appear at first to be drier, but just because of this on the bottom. But when you actually take the bite, I think it'll seem juicier. So let's find out.
I'm going to try it side by side.
Go for it.
Okay, so one interesting thing is bigger smoke ring.
For sure. Thicker smoke ring in the pellet smoker. But let me be quick to point out, it's only aesthetic. It's only aesthetic, guys. But yeah, it looks nicer. That's for sure. Wow. All right.
They are so similar.
You can tell it's the same flavor profile.
Yeah, they are so similar, it's ridiculous.
Okay, here we go. I think that this is...
That's delicious.
That's really good. I think this is a more pronounced smoke flavor. This one is the same kind. This one's just dialed up more. The fat is rendered better on here, but that's not a function of the pellet so much as a function of the cooker. But that's another issue for another day. Let's move on.
This is almond wine. These three here that we're opening are all the ones that are not, and these are all similar. They're all almond wood and they're all salt and pepper, trimmed the exact same way. Everything is equal on these. The fourth one's just the fun Knotty wood one.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So with the almond wine, we have a redder color to the fat. It didn't get as dark. But all the meat is plenty dark. So I don't know if that's, we wrapped a little early, and so it kind of washed away some of the bark. Who knows? But let's taste it and find out. So we'll go like this. Okay, we'll get, yeah, this will be good. I really like that. You definitely taste more. I get that flavor specifically in the fat. It's like a sweetness. That's really nice. I thought that with the heavier meat, the beef, it might fade into the background, or it could have a chance to rise up like a hero. It smells. I don't know. I think it's really good.
Yeah. All right. Now we're just going to open the fun one because we're fun.
We'll call it the Knotty Wood Special.
Yep, Knotty Wood Special.
This is Knotty Wood Special.
In fact, oh, look at that.
Still want all that juice though. It smells pretty good, man.
The difference between this and all the others is we use Knotty Rub, and this is a plum wine.
All right.
Honors are yours.
All right. I will not say no. Ooh. Okay. I notice the fat's not rendered as well, but that's a cooker thing, not a pellet thing. I'll take this guy.
Okay, I'll take this guy. Such a different flavor profile, you can't even compare it.
Yeah. I was trying to think, how would you?
But it's
Like,
good.
compare a steak to a cheesecake. You know, they're not the same thing. If you want this, if you want like a flavor bomb with sweet and spices and all that stuff,
Okay, now
you cook
now
it
try
like this.
Where you don't have as much on the end.
I'm still getting it.
Yeah, I'm still getting it too.
It's really, I mean, it's nice.
But it's not traditional brisket.
It's nice. I can totally understand why people would choose this over the salt and pepper. And I think that it's a reasonable possibility that a majority of people would. But for me, the more I've done barbecue, the more I appreciate good simplicity. And a lot of it is, I think, could just be me, but I think for me, a lot of it is that I'm more concerned with how well I cooked that brisket than I am with what I could put on the outside of it. And so I'm like, oh, I nailed that cook or didn't. And so it's possible I've lost the plot, kind of. But for me, I really like that one. I really like that one. I unexpectedly love that one. So I don't know. 3 of these I would be really happy to have cooked.
So to summarize this, how would you stack up the pellet side of this?
Well, in terms of appearance, almond was tremendous. I mean, as good as you could ever hope to get, right? And the flavor was great. Milder in the background, it's there, you can taste it. It's wonderful. So if you're trying to introduce people to barbecue who aren't used to eating smoky foods, this would be the ticket. But the almond wine has
Just got that fruitiness.
It's like a dark fruit, so
Yep.
it pairs well with like the richness of the beef. It's wonderful. It's like when people eat red meat with wine, it's for the very same reasons that the almond and wine pellets go so well with brisket.
Yep.
I don't know, I
Okay.
liked it a lot.
So we've got a gang of people out there who are just sitting here in the background watching us, salivating. So we're going to get these out and get to cutting and see what they think.
Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, bonus ribs. Okay?
All the brisket was really good. I really liked the seasoning on number 1. Out of 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1 and 2 were my favorites. Really good bark, really good smoke flavor.
Number 3 was absolutely spectacular, really, really great. Number 1 was a big surprise. I totally didn't expect the flavor, but it was really good. 2 was definitely a close second behind number 3, and number 4 was just, you know, it was okay.
My favorite one was number 4.
Really?
But I think the pepper though. So, I mean, what about you? What would you like?
3, then 4, but they were close, and then 2 was my
Least favorite?
yeah, out of them. But
Yeah.
all of them were better than anything I could have ever made, so they were all
Yeah.
super, super good.
I
I would take any of them.
I
all day
agree with
long.
that.
Out of all 4, with a show of hands, who thought number 1 was the best? Okay, number 2? Okay, number 3? Number 4? Okay, so number 1 was clearly the hands down winner, which was the Knotty Rub.
It was the Knotty Wood special. It was the Knotty
Woods,
Rub plus a proprietary pellet blend. It's not even on the market
Plum
yet.
and wine.
Yeah. No, it's you took all the
We
tools
cheated
you-
all the way through.
Yeah, you took all the tools from the tool belt and you threw them at me, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? I got sticks and salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number one was the wild card because I asked Jeremy at the last minute, I said, hey, I just want to do one with Knotty Rub because I got to know if it pairs with brisket and if people like it. He's like, yeah, okay. Right, I'm just gonna go ahead and
like
humor
it.
you.
They like it.
Right, so that's what that was about. Number two was the almond wine. Number three was the offset stick burner.
Just
Almond woods, just almond sticks. And number four was straight almond pellets. So that was straight almond. We're all learning, we're all having a great time. It's just great to have all of you in the room. So thank you guys very much for coming out and participating.
Yeah,
Jeremy, thank you.
Thanks. Sure, come on. Okay, Spencer, I have to admit that I am kind of blown away by the quality we're able to get on those briskets with the almond pellets, the almond wine pellets, the flavor. I mean, for me, it's actually somewhat disappointing to see how close you can get with these pellets to what you can do with an offset smoker. Because with the offset, I'm out there babying the fire, I'm watching it, and there's no replacement for a real fire. But if you can get that darn close with pellets and you can select a temperature and you can walk away, it's kind of hard to fault pellet smokers. And then the other thing that I'm thinking is that if you've got a pellet smoker, the only real limit to the kind of flavor that you can get is how the pellet smoker operates. So that's the only thing different between what I'm doing on an offset stick burner and what you get with the pellets, because everything that I was using and burning in the offset gets into pellet form with your pellets because you use the whole chunk of wood, right? There's nothing that goes to waste, everything is in there. And so if you could have the same kind of fire control with your pellet smoker that you do with an offset, I think you could get the same flavor. It's just a function of the pellet smoker itself. So I think that the bark and the color we were able to get with the almond really blew me away. Now, PLUM is still my favorite pellet, and so unabashedly, it's just so good. The flavor you get is so good. But if I were cooking a brisket, you asked me today, you're cooking a brisket, you have to use a pellet smoker, what are you going to use? I'm going to use a 50-50 blend of almond and PLUM. I just think that those two pellets, the almond gives nice flavor, kind of more mild, but gives great bark, great color. The PLUM is second to none in terms of flavor on a pellet smoker. So, I don't know, I think you have two really good quality products. And if we're evaluating the claim, do you have a stick burner quality pellet? I think the results of that test show, yes, you do. And I think you guys are the only ones who do. Because I've cooked with oak, I've cooked with oak pellets, there's a wide gap. I've cooked with almond wood, I've cooked with almond pellets, and the gap is really, really small.
So for me, it validated what we've always been suspect to. The reason why we didn't validate it is because of, quite frankly, I never knew how to cook a brisket the right way until you came out and taught me. So now I'm excited that I get to start playing in the brisket game and doing it right. I've failed 5, 6, 7 times at brisket, and now I know the nuances of how to build bark, why it's important to build bark, why it's important to wait until you wrap, till the bark's built and the fat's rendered and do all that. And I was super excited to find out that we were able to come as close as we were able to come with a pellet smoker as to brisket, because for me, watching the process and studying it and being analytic about it, seeing the firebox going, playing with venting, all of that, you get so much wider range in the way the wood burns that you're getting different types of smoke burning that's mixing in, and that's why I understand now why stick burner is the pinnacle of doing that. The deal is, though, 1 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 in the afternoon, you're babysitting it, and you're not watching it on your phone from work or whatever. So for everybody out there who's been wondering, I mean, for me, I think it's kind of a no-brainer for if you're a pellet smoker guy, what pellet to choose now. And you know, I was a bit shy to say that ours are the best pellet on the market, but now I do believe it after having somebody like you come out and test.
Yeah, so I've done stuff with pellets, from cooking pellets to Traeger to Lumberjack. Now, there are better and worse pellets out there, right? I'm not a particular fan of the Traeger pellets. You know, there are other brands that I really like. But in terms of the flavor, the bark, and the color, all the competitors are fighting for second best, because this test to me proved that the bark and color you're able to get with these pellets can't be recreated by any other means. Because when people have pellet smokers and they're trying to create bark, a lot of times they do a bunch of crazy stuff to try to get bark. So they'll cook at 180 for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and then they'll bump it up to 200, and then they'll bump it to 225, and then they'll bump it to 250. And what happens is they dry out the meat on the outside. They have really dark, nice looking bark, but they've sacrificed the quality of the brisket for that aesthetic look. With this, because of how you guys process the wood, the bark and the color that you're able to get is just a byproduct of cooking them the right way, the briskets that is. So if you cook the briskets the right way, you get that bark, you get that color, you get the fat render, and the only limiting factor is how the pellet smoker itself runs. So the quality of the pellet is equal in quality to the wood splits. It's just how you run the fire.
Well, and that was really, I thought it was as fair and unbiased a look as you could do, because of watching 3 pellet smokers running and 1 stick burner. We were within 10 or 15 degrees the entire way through on all of them when we were cooking.
Yep.
And the one that varied the most would have been the stick burner, because if it's a stick burner and coals burn down, but you were managing that between 225 and 275 the whole entire time, and we were set at 250 on the pellet smokers, with the exception of the pits and spits. We did run it up to 285 when we got behind because of the other smoker failed.
Yeah. So the bottom line for everybody out there, the long and the short of it, the thing to remember, okay, the important part is this. If you're looking for stick burner quality and flavor, there's no replacement for a stick burner. But far and away, the closest you will ever come, I think, in my opinion, is Knotty wood pellets. Now, I don't have any kind of agreement with Knotty wood, right? I don't make any money if we sell 1 billion of these pellets, right? It's my honest opinion. So for me, it's about having integrity. I can get behind this product because I really believe in it. I've used it, I've tried it, I've compared it to other pellets, and it's just simply the best. And so for me, to tell you guys this is the best is, not in my own interest. Actually, I would kind of like to hoard these for myself so that, I could do some stuff on pellet smokers. They're like, how did you get this flavor? Well, it's my secret. It's not. I'm just using the best quality pellets. So for you guys, if you want more flavor from your pellet smoker, then try out these Knotty wood pellets. If you want more bark, if you want more color, if you want a brisket or whatever you're cooking on your pellet smoker to end up like a big offset smoker, this is your best bet.
So yeah, for us on these, we've always said that the type of fuel you're burning on your grill or in your pellet grill is as important as the protein that you're putting on to eat your smoke and your flavor. Would you agree with that now after testing ours?
Yeah. So there are very limited options for you to have an influence on the outcome of your cook when you're doing barbecue. So you can choose a different pellet, you can choose a different rub, you can choose a different meat, but that's kind of it in terms of how you're going to flavor stuff, right? So if you choose a good quality meat and you choose a good quality rub, then the thing that makes it barbecue is that you're going to be burning wood to, flavor the meat.
Yeah.
And if you're ignoring that, say you spend a lot of money on a fancy pellet grill and you spend a lot of money on some very fine quality beef and you spent money on a really good rub, if you're ignoring the pellets, you're kind of missing the boat on what makes barbecue special. So it's that smoke flavor that everyone likes, and if you can get a real rich smoke flavor from a pellet, I mean, that's kind of the holy grail of barbecue. It's convenient and great. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to, counsel somebody into getting an offset smoker unless they just love playing with the fire, which I do. So I'm going to be doing that forever.
No, I agree with you. I mean, that's a new thing that we're going to start playing with. And by the way, we will be starting to put out chunk wood and stick burner wood for almond and plum as we get it.
Okay.
So that's something to be coming.
Yeah, well, I approve of that as long as you send me some.
There you go. Easy.
All right,
easy.
done.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, got it. Okay. So those are my honest thoughts. I've never been able to get this kind of quality with a pellet before, and I've tried a bunch of different pellets, probably a few dozen at this point. And so I want to say thank you to Spencer. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be out here. You've had us out here. We got to cook on your smokers, use your pellets, see how they're made. It's been a real privilege, and I just want to tell you I appreciate it, and I hope that all the viewers out there appreciate it too, to kind of get a window into how pellets get used, different blends of pellets you can use, and really, ultimately, it's about the results that you can achieve on your pellet smoker at home. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
thank you for coming out. Thank you for teaching me how to cook a brisket. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, you can hit the like button down below, and you can also subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Mad Scientist BBQ. And if you want to follow Knotty, how can they follow you?
You can follow us on Instagram at Knotty BBQ, Facebook Knotty BBQ, and you can look us up on our website at knottywoodbbq.com.
And if you have a pellet smoker and you're interested in making great barbecue, you should check them out. We'll see you guys next time.